Hi everyone, and welcome to That Fertility Show. I'm Chris, and I'm here with Jen.
Hi.
And Mike.
Hello, the internet.
The three of us are back together. It's been a few weeks since the three of us were back together.
It has.
How's everyone doing?
Well, good. I'm in the middle of my fourth round of IVF, actually. So I was doing my injections about 10 minutes before we went live. But I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fine, actually. I'll bore you about it another time. But yeah, not too bad, thank you.
Everything going well?
I had my scan this morning and I've got some follicles, which is, it's the first hurdle achieved. So yeah, feeling pretty good.
Brilliant.
Good stuff.
Mike, how about you?
I've had a few days of norovirus, so I am lurgid. There is a little gap there, so nobody else catches it. But yeah, it's just been normal kind of tiredness. That is my life.
We just came in and we're like, "Oh, Mike, you're looking good. You're looking good." He's like, "Yeah, I've been ill." Okay.
It was, without getting too graphic. Every time I ejected, it was a different meal from a different day going back in time.
Does he know we're live?
Well, the thing is this is an IVF show, so to be fair, graphic is kind of the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
What was I thinking?
It's when I got to Wednesday's chili, I was like, "Oh, seriously, this is bad."
No, okay, we're good. So this week, first of all, so us three are here, and the two gems are with us. They are watching the show. So if you do have any questions for them, do put them in the comments, and I know they would love to get back to you.
That was to the gems.
Oh, to the gems.
The gems, that feels like such a good nickname already.
It's like we've never been away, isn't it?
It is. Okay. This week, because of all the coverage in the press and the newspapers and around miscarriage, particularly obviously in the UK, we had Miscarriage Week. And I know on the Jeremy Vine show at the moment, they're talking a lot about it this week. So we also wanted to pick up with it. You'll probably see some of my Instagram. If you do follow me at ittakes_3, you'll see that I've been talking about it quite a bit recently. And I know these two want to also jump in and talk about it as well. So we want to cover a few things. First of all, the main thing I want to do is just say, if you do have a story and you do want to share it, we are going to start using our Instagram page a bit more. So do always share something with us, and we will get it out there if you want us to do that. So do share your stories. Also, if you need any help or any advice, do message us. But we're going to cover a few topics ranging from what it means to miscarry, going on to the support, the fear behind it, and kind of a bit more around IVF as well. What happens if it doesn't work, and the support if it does, and then we're going to pick up some questions at the end. So let's kick off first of all, and mainly cover about what does it mean emotionally to miscarry. And I say emotionally, and I use emotionally as the key word here, because physically, we all know what it physically means to miscarry, just without going into too much detail, But I think emotionally, this gets missed. I talked about this in my Instagram. My mother miscarried before me, so I'm a rainbow baby.
Oh.
But I didn't even know what that meant until starting this process. But I didn't take that seriously. Like my mum, my mum never even told me. My grandparents told me, and not once did I ever have a conversation with my mum about it. Back when I could, when she was with us, just because I never knew it was important. Kind of sounds sad now, doesn't it?
It's right, because I remember I'm the youngest of three children, and my sister, who's the middle child, I remember when she got married, very quickly got pregnant and miscarried, and I was 13, 14 or something. So I remember the conversations that were being had, because I was still young enough that I had to go sit with the mums, and I weren't allowed to go sit with the dads and the brothers drinking brown beer. But I remember these conversations, and they were like, it was very, not dismissive, it was an acknowledgement, but it was a get over it quickly, move on. There was very much that sentiment around it, that it's not an important thing. It's like, it happened, get over it.
It's been happening to me recently with friends. I've been mentioning that I've been struggling with miscarrying. This happened months ago, a few months ago. And someone just said, "Well, you just got to man up and get on with it, aren't you?" It's just like, I hate that term. I hate the term "man up."
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous term, actually.
It is. It's so misogynistic. It's dangerous. But I was just like, Okay, it's just, yeah. So it's by surprise to you. What does it mean?
Well, I think the thing that I found quite interesting is people's perception of what that actually means to miscarry. And people have said, oh, well, at least it happened early. It's just a collection of cells, isn't it then? And I think that's completely disregarding the fact that to you, that's your baby. And yes, it's a cluster of cells. We all started off as a cluster of cells. We all had the potential to not be here now. And we all started as that tiny little embryo. And I think chemical pregnancy, where you have a positive pregnancy test, but nothing ever comes of it, you never get to a scan or anything, that's massively undersold as well. And that is a miscarriage. It is a loss, because whether it's a day, 2 days, a week, that baby existed. And that's how I think, as the parents of that miscarried child, we perceive that to be our child. And I think in the IVF world, you obviously know about the pregnancy a lot earlier on. And I think when you're conceiving naturally, you're often past the point. So a lot of people do have chemical pregnancies, but they don't necessarily realize they have, because they haven't tested. So I do think there's a very different opinion on it, depending on what side of the fence you're on. I think if fertility is at the forefront of your mind, and you know from the beginning that this little tiny cluster of cells is your everything, and I think people don't always see that. I think there is a perception that miscarriage is when you lose a baby, but I think it's really important that we clarify that miscarriage is from the minute you see that positive line on the pregnancy test, you become a mum, you become a dad. And I think there is as well, I agree massively, the idea that you just get on with it. It's just a miscarriage. It happens to everyone. It's really common. And I know that healthcare professionals have told my friends things like that. It's one of those things. You just got to get on with it. Yeah. It's very common. Oh, okay. But it's not common to me. And I think that's something that I think for me, when I think about miscarriage, it's just reiterating whatever stage of your pregnancy, it's a loss. It is a miscarriage.
I don't blame the people who don't understand it. It's, it is personal to you, as you said. There just needs to be more awareness about how it affects people. So people can consider how it's affecting that person.
Yeah, and the way that you're spoken to about it. So if somebody really kind of makes you feel silly almost for being upset, it was just cells, like you're lucky it didn't happen 8 weeks. It's a bit like, oh, well, my feelings aren't valid and I feel silly now, and I'm not going to share that again because that was the response I got. But if somebody goes, I'm so sorry that happened and I can't imagine how that must feel, then you're kind of validated in feeling whatever it is that you choose to feel, and there's no right or wrong. And some people may have a completely different opinion and say, if you miscarry a week, that's fine, I don't mind that, and that's their opinion and that's their right to have that thought. But yeah,
it's one of those things where, and I think it's the same with a lot of situations, where I think people should take the lead from the person telling you the news. So if they're upset about it, you react accordingly. And there's just not enough of that. There's people just having too much of their own opinions.
Yeah. We've been talking about this as well, about how our Instagram, seeing things on Instagram affects us. So we do realize, talking about miscarriage, when you are going through IVF or looking to get pregnant, can be difficult to listen to. And that's something that happens, isn't it? Well, definitely when you're going through several cycles of IVF, and definitely when you've miscarried before, you have that fear. So not only miscarrying, you have that emotion, which is really bad, but you consistently have that fear while going through your cycle.
Yeah.
I find it holds me back from really connecting with that cycle.
Okay. Like a self-preservation.
Yeah, it kind of is. That you hold back, you're worried about. And I'm now at the moment, because I'm talking about miscarriage, my Instagram feed is all about miscarriage because I'm relating to these articles. So Instagram's picking that up and going, here's more miscarriage.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay. And there's there's a fear of the next cycle, of miscarrying, and it holds me back.
I mean, sorry, Mike, I will let you get a word in edgeways, but
he talks enough, don't worry.
Okay. So I shared quite openly on Instagram the fact that I miscarried just over a year ago. It was the anniversary in October, and it was actually around the exact day where I was due to start this cycle. And I was surrounded by miscarriage. I chose to share it a year on, because I thought I'm no longer ashamed and embarrassed by this. But then in return, you then get a lot of posts, a lot of information, a lot of messages in return about miscarriage. And I just thought, my goodness, I am not in any way, shape or form ready to start another cycle of IVF, because what if that happens again? And it was that what if, which none of us know. I mean, in any form of life, you never know what's going to be 5 minutes down the road, but it was that I can't do this because I can't go through that again, because I've processed it now a year on and I'm doing better and I've gone from there and I'm now here. But what if that happens again? I don't want to do it. So I completely put my foot on the brake and I was like, no. And now a month on, I'm still not entirely sure I'm ready to face what could potentially happen. But you can't put it off forever. You can't let that fear impact on your future.
You can't. You do have to fight the fear.
Yeah. It's something which a life lesson I learned when, without going back, because we've already spoken loads about mental health, but when I was kind of going through my anxiety and depression stuff, there's a phrase that clung to me and really helps, and it's never let fear make a choice.
I like that.
And that, I think, is just the one thing which kind of guides me in every choice I make. And sometimes fear does make a choice, as it does with everything. But reminding myself of that gives me a sense of courage to do it. And courage isn't being brave. Courage is feeling the fear but doing it anyway.
I'm quite inspired by that. I do that genuinely. I'm normally a bit sarcastic about you there, but genuinely that's quite a.
And I think that's
thing.
how I look at everything, or try to anyway, is just to kind of go, that's really scary. I can either do this or this. Which one is the courageous choice? And it's generally the right one.
Yeah.
You got to go, as you said, you have to go into your next cycle with an open mind and not let that fear control you. It's difficult, and it is really difficult. And as I said, I'm not connecting too well with it. And it's weird as I sometimes I feel like, should I be talking about this as a man? I know I should now because of everything I've talked about on my Instagram and with people. But as a man, do I have a right to talk about miscarriage? And I know this week we've been talking about the male side of miscarriage, the male effects. And I know I do, but there is always that thing. What can I say? How should I say it?
Because you haven't experienced the physical loss, do you think? Okay.
The physical loss. I had I was at a networking event the other day, and I talked about my IVF. Actually, someone came up to me and said, "How's the pregnancy going?" It's like, "Oh, have I not caught up with you in a while?" Yeah, we miscarried, and someone else was there. And then this person walked away, and I was left with this person who didn't answer the question. He went, "I miscarried at the weekend. I don't know what to do." And you can see him holding it in, as if he was holding it in, and there was tension with him. As soon as he released it, you could see him just kind of release it. And so we had a good talk about things. And I think for men don't talk about it enough. They feel either that they can't, not that it won't be accepted or it won't be listened to. Just as men, you can't talk about it. I can never talk about it with my family.
No.
You just got to man up.
Yeah.
How do you find talking about it?
I think having a forum, and we do say a lot about Instagram, but obviously that's how we all connected, and it's where I go to get my day-to-day support about things.
It's where I make my money. I run Instagram accounts for everyone. It's where I make money. Yeah.
So on there, I talk about miscarriage now like it's a normal thing, because really sadly, the community of trying to conceive does involve miscarriage, and it is a statistic. It is expected. That doesn't make it any easier, but there it's kind of a safe space to say how you're feeling. Up until January of this year, I didn't talk about my miscarriage, which was in October of last year, because I didn't want to upset people. I didn't want to offend people. If they were pregnant, I didn't want them to kind of feel like I'd cursed them, that I was unlucky to be around. I didn't want to make my friends who had children feel guilty that they had children and mine had just died in my womb, And there was this whole swirl in my mind of, I don't want to talk about this. I don't know who to talk to about this. So I do think it affects women as well. And I think I've started now, very recently, just talking about the fact that I'm going through IVF. So I'll walk into a shop in town and I'll make some sort of comment that leads to IVF. And since I've done that, I've connected with women who've had stillbirth, miscarriage, multiple miscarriage, and lost a child at the age of 3. And I wouldn't have known any of that about these people who I see every day serving me coffee or, serve me in that shop. We all have this almost like embarrassment, because who can you talk to about that? And you certainly don't expect someone to walk into the shop and you end up having had a conversation about stillbirth. That is not something that is a normal conversation. I'm not saying it shouldn't be. It could be a normal thing that we all talk about, but at the moment we don't. And even as women, that is not something I sit around and talk about with my friends. I saw one of my dearest friends yesterday. I've known her since I was 3. And she was talking to me and asked me how I felt about everything. And I realized I'd never really spoken to any of my best friends deeply. You scratch the surface of things, and life is kind of fun, and you have different friends for different reasons. But even your serious friends, you don't necessarily sit there and talk miscarriage. It's a bit of a no-go area, really, for me. But since having the Instagram account, which is a public account, I sort of thought, well, if I can share all of this with people I've never met or people I've met once or twice, why can't I share that with others? And the more I'm doing it, the more other people are sharing it. But I think somebody somewhere has to initiate the conversation. And I think there are hundreds and thousands of women, and obviously men, who aren't.
Yeah. It's a weird situation we live in, isn't it? Where we feel guilty about that happening to us. We feel like we can't tell someone else who's got a child because we don't want to make them feel guilty. And it's just saying to, and please, if you're watching this live or afterwards, do message in, give us your thoughts, tell us how you're feeling about this. Tell us your situation. We understand that, as we said, not everyone wants to talk about miscarriage, but if you do, the platform's there. Please do message. Please do use our Instagram. But I was saying to someone the other day that me and Becca, our IVF plan, our flow chart, we have an option. We have a strategy for miscarriage. How messed up is that when you go with IVF that you actually have a strategy for miscarriage? Yeah. We live in a world, in a strange world with IVF.
I was just going to say to Mike, did you have fear of that when Helen got pregnant?
Yeah. It was one of those situations where, because we'd already had a complete failure with the IVF first time round, which is kind of funny when it's not funny. But when you were talking about the moment of being pregnant, of being a mum or a dad, when you see those cells, and I remember on my way to work getting a phone call from Helen telling me that of the 2 eggs they had taken from her in Leeds, 1 had fertilized. Now, sounds like a really devastating conversation to go, you've got 1. Happiest day of my life at that point, because there's a tiny little life in a little petri dish in Leeds that is half me and half my wife, and was 8 cells or whatever it was, 4 cells, whatever it is. And it
with
was
a little
amazing.
baseball cap.
Yeah, a little baseball cap, bald.
Were you ever told what to do if it didn't work?
No, because there's very much the way that my experience of IVF through the NHS goes is because of the severe underfunding of all these kind of services in our beloved NHS. You can tell it's election season, sorry. That they will go down one particular route. This is the route of IVF. There are no extras. It's just we will put them together in a petri dish, or we will put them together either IVF or ICSI, and we will stick it back in you 3 to 5 days. Done. And then the rest is up to you. So
you went to Alicante as well afterwards, didn't you?
Yeah.
So IVF wasn't enough. You needed the sun as well.
That's it. We needed the sun, and Alicante has the best ice cream in the planet.
But so when you went to both clinics, I said we plan ours out, and that's your experience. But either of you, were you told, right, this might not work, and if it doesn't, this is the support you need?
Not a jot. Mainly because I think you're at that point where you start in that journey, and it's almost as if you're starting a marathon and they're telling you what to do if you fall over, kind of thing. You need to focus on the positives, and I think it's right that that the 90% of everything they tell you is that. They may have given me a leaflet, I don't know, you pay no attention to it, you just going baby kind of thing, because they want the success and they want you to be successful, whether it's a private clinic because they have a pride in their work, whether it's NHS and they have a pride in their work, whatever. They want the success. So there's not a natural point where you say, if this fails X, Y, Z. There maybe should be, I don't know. But
did you have that? I suppose it's...
All we were told was, if it doesn't work, you'll have an appointment in about 2 to 3 weeks after to discuss next options. It was literally like very practical. There was no, if it doesn't work and you feel a certain way, this is what we can offer, this is where you can go. You know that the clinics have counsellors, but...
So how would you handle it, though? Because, maybe it's just the British way with the stiff upper lip that we have. You're right. We want to hear the positives. And if we're going for IVF, we don't want someone saying, right, it might not work, it might not work. No, tell us it will work.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work, the last thing I want is someone just going, it hasn't worked, here's 20 leaflets.
Yeah,
true. So
true.
We complain that we're not given enough information, but how would someone handle that?
I mean, I remember the conversation we had with the clinic in Bradford when our cycle failed. And it's a moment I've spoke about on the show before, where I videoed that first experience quite a lot because I wanted it to be some sort of blog that I would hand to my child when they're 18 and go, this is your conception, this is amazing. And there's a video of the phone call of the clinic telling us that we're not pregnant. And we'd both taken the day off work and I sat there filming it and I could hear the conversation because it's an iPhone and you can hear everybody's conversation on an iPhone. And it sat on my phone. It was a whole gig on a 16 gig iPhone 5. So that proper crippled it for years. I never wanted to delete it, never watched it. But in that conversation, that's the point where they said, come in and we'll have a chat. Which, kind of feels right in that situation for us, for them to have been positive up to a point and then say, right, here's the safety net.
And you felt it was an emotional callback, not just a practical tick the box exercise.
I think we were lucky. I think the nurses we had there, there was a couple who were great, and because you see them very often, you become very familiar, and these two were very good at that. And so you could tell they were both mature. I think they were both mothers, and you just get that sense that they understood and they felt as bad delivering the information as we felt receiving the information.
I think I've never got to the point where I've had to have a clinic tell me. So on all my IVF attempts, I've either fallen pregnant or had a bleed after the 7 days. So for me, I've never got to the point, I suppose, where they've had to tell me. I'm the one phoning them going, it hasn't worked. And they're going, oh, well, keep taking your medication and retest in a week. I'm like, oh, no, trust me, unless I'm implanting a baby elephant, like this is not happening. And I'm almost like begging them to accept that it hasn't worked. So I've never kind of, I guess, been in the position where a clinic has told me. So maybe I do have a different perception on that.
We've talked a lot about miscarriage and what happens when it doesn't work. And we've moved quite a bit onto support. So let's talk about the IVF support when it does work.
Okay.
When you get that pregnancy, what is out there? What is that? Is there? This is the kind of the area, isn't it? How do you create a support group for something that's working?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the time I did fall pregnant, it was a very high risk pregnancy. So again, I was on the phone to my clinic initially and just saying I'm bleeding and it's not looking good. And what can I do? And they said nothing. Literally, they said, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. You just have to wait. After another week of it, I was very poorly. I got referred to the EPU at the hospital, the early pregnancy unit. I had a scan and they said, no, you're pregnant. It's fine. Some people do just bleed. Crack on. It was very unnurturing. Luckily, my mum, bless her, was there at these appointments. So I kind of got that maternal oomph support, which is great if you have that sort of relationship with your parent. But obviously not everyone has that.
Yeah.
Some people have sadly lost their parents at our age. And, where do you get it from directly then? At that instance, I don't know. If your partner can't attend and you're there, for me, certainly there was no emotional support initially.
I remember because our first miscarriage, we miscarried for 16 weeks because it went horribly wrong because not everything came out. So it went horribly, horribly wrong. We're back and forth at the hospital quite a few times, got sent to different wards, and the only support was the nurses. But there are support groups out there, aren't they? When you do get pregnant, when you do need that extra little help.
There are. Tommy's. Actually. And I know you did quite a bit for Tommy's, haven't you?
Oh, well, no, I'm back to start running. I already feel like I'm doing it.
Yeah, it's not. I thought you'd done it. It's next.
I haven't run a marathon in a good 7 years, 8 years. So yes, I'll be running the London Marathon next year in aid of Tommy's. Tommy's are an amazing support charity, but they not only do they support pregnancy support, give you pregnancy support, they are also one of the UK's leading charities for looking into the reasons behind miscarriage and actually investigating it and putting science behind it and trying to reduce the amount of miscarriages, which definitely when you're going through the mindset that I'm going through and struggling with miscarriage, it's good to know that there's charities out there.
Yeah.
There's loads of amazing charities, but Tommy's is just the one I chose to run for. Because
I think it's kind of one of the key players as well. I mean, you've got the Fertility Network UK, obviously, who are, as we've said in previous shows, an amazing initial point of contact. But I think for Tommy's as well, they do offer that support for people in early pregnancy. And I know they sort of look through their site and it'll say things like, found out you're pregnant unexpectedly, which obviously in the IVF world, you're not like, oh, surprise. But it's a surprise when it works, I think, sometimes, because we do live in such a doom and gloom mentality often about the whole process of trying to conceive, that actually, I think when you do get pregnant and it's not a high risk and it doesn't ultimately end in miscarriage, and it just keeps going and you're going week after week after week, that is kind of like, what now? Like, who's supporting me now? And I did a little look up. I have a little spoiler here. Nothing came to mind. Who can you go to for healthy pregnancy support beyond your GP if you've got that anxiety and the stress? And actually, Tommy's do seem to be the only place that, at a quick glance,
and it's a glance for me as well. I'm still getting to know Tommy's, so I don't know too much about them. So at a glance, on that side of things, I've looked at the miscarriage, but you're right on that side of things.
Yeah, and they have links to Fertility Friends, which is their online forum. They have male support links, so you can hook up with other guys in that position. So like you were saying, like, where do men go to talk if you can't talk with your mates, if people aren't interested in it, if it's awkward? Tommy's do have a link for that as well. They also have a list of all their therapists and counsellors on there. They're all accredited. You can have phone consultations, Skype consultations. But I thought it was quite telling, actually, that when we thought, actually, where do you go? Because we've not been in that position yet where we've kind of gone far enough to kind of need it. And obviously you have. But did you turn anywhere? Were you kind of managing the anxieties and...
Yeah, I mean, I kind of once you're there, kind of going through, you've always got a goal, and especially the clinic we were at, they were wanting regular scan updates and stuff. So you had that kind of support via email.
Did you feel you needed any additional support? Was there?
I mean, beyond kind of normal anxiety, no, because my wife is very resourceful. So if there's information to be found on the internet about anything, she will find it.
We need to get a job researching for the show, don't we?
Yeah,
really?
And if you are looking for internet, there's a good one, isn't it? HFEA website.
Yeah.
Have a very good list of things if you do want to get started on things.
We've spoken about them as far as giving you ideas for what clinic to go to, what add-ons to look for and that sort of thing. But they do also have links for the infertility counselling and all sorts of things on there as well. It's a really good place to turn.
Baby Centre is great as well. It's a very general pregnancy baby website, but there is a strong thread on infertility on there, which is where most of Helen's knowledge kind of spawned from. That sounds like it's quite evil knowledge. Whoa, it's Halloween.
Halloween, that's it.
Yeah.
But I think you know, just as a point, I think it was quite interesting that it's not an obvious pregnant after IVF search on Google, which is what all of us, you know, to be fair, we all do that. We Google. There weren't 20 different options. It's really kind of, you're in it already. You know this area, and you know to look at the FHEA, you know to look at Fertility Network, you know about Tommy's charity. But there weren't specific ones for that. And I think actually, if anybody actually out there in an internet world could recommend one that we can share on with people, I think that would be really helpful. So.
I would say just quickly on the end of that is, I remember asking the question of the clinic, and they were like, well, you're just pregnant.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay.
You either are or you aren't.
Yeah, they were just like, you're pregnant like everybody else. So it's the same.
And I don't think you ever can feel pregnant like everyone else, can you, when you've gone through that?
So we have come to 30 minutes, but so we're going to go slightly over because there was one thing we wanted to pick up on today. And that was, I think we should call it Mike and Jen's question and answer session.
I mean, that wasn't that.
Usually
we had like Mike's quick shot.
Mike quick shots,
things like that.
Mike's magic moments.
You went with Mike and Jen's question and answer session. Great. We rehearse things like this. It takes time to be this good.
So
you're letting us down, though.
Mike, Jen,
it's the question and answer session.
So basically,
we're going to ask if. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say, because we were getting nowhere. I put a post out on Instagram, ask me, give me your cues, and I will air them. And we got a few, so we're going to air your cues.
I was actually just trying to read my writing. So alternative therapies.
Alternative therapies, don't buy into it. It's all nonsense. Genuinely. First time we had IVF, Helen went and did acupuncture, did nothing, costed money. Don't save your money. You'll need even nappies.
I think if you enjoy it, do it.
There's a sensible answer.
In essence, I've done a realm of different things. I did acupuncture, swore by it to improve my number of eggs, to improve the thickness of my lining. Haven't done it this cycle. Bang on the same. So I do enjoy acupuncture, but I've recently discovered reflexology and Reiki. I enjoy that more. So if you enjoy it, if it relaxes you,
I think that's probably I was being slightly facetious.
No.
It's one of those things. If you feel it has a positive effect on you, then by all means.
I would agree. Alternative therapies are great if you're using them for your mindset.
Yeah.
You know, if you need to, even if you use it for your body, because your body is going to help you think better and clearer, then do that. Just don't expect them to give you a certain result in terms of IVF.
Yeah.
And don't believe people that say it does.
Yeah.
There are people out there who are unscrupulous, and they will tell you, if you do this, you will get pregnant, and they cannot.
Yeah, it's not a guarantee they can make,
prove it.
But they can put you in the right mindset,
yeah,
which can do a lot to help you on your IVF journey. But remember, alternative therapies are for your mind and body to make you feel better.
Yeah.
Successful IVIGs. Now, someone asked about this.
They did, and we both went,
Now, we've actually had successful IVIG. So we had 2 rounds with the NHS, which we didn't use it. We then went to our IVF boot camp in London, which do IVIG. So we got a cytokine test and then a NK cell test. I say we, my wife did. Obviously don't get tested. It's expensive. It is expensive. IVIGs and the testing is expensive. But both came back quite high. So we took Humira to bring down the cytokines. I actually brought it down so low now that if my wife goes next to a microwave, she will get cancer. It just plummeted. A little bit worrying, actually. I'm worried about that. But the NK cells, took IVIG, brought it down, the NK cells, and we got pregnant. We did miscarry, but we miscarried for a reason not relating to that. Mm-hmm. So we miscarried because of chromosomal issue with the eggs. So the IVIG did work.
Would you do it again?
The IVIG, yeah. Yeah, we did the IVIG again, and we've talked about this. If they said we needed to take it, because your results can go back up, your NK cells can go back up. So if you need to take it again, take it again. We were paying £2,000 per IVIG. The tests alone are £400, and you have to take one before, then your IVIG, then after. So you're talking £3,000 per round of this, which can get quite expensive.
There's no bulk discount in that.
No, unfortunately not.
And that actually leads on to the last question we had.
Just so that did work. It did work for us. IVIGs, in our opinion, again,
worth the price.
You can say it's alternative therapies. You know, some people will say that it doesn't work. It has nothing to do
because
with
there's medical research and science behind it.
Yeah.
So it's just medicine. Yeah.
And
so I put a post up on my Instagram about the cost of IVF medication. Now I am no longer an NHS patient, and people were asking sort of general prices and that sort of thing. And what we found is it varies hugely. So clinic by clinic, even if they're using the same company, will be charging a completely different amount. If you can shop around, it's worth trying, but quite often you are linked and tied into your clinic. So if you are in a position where you can shop around, Asda, they don't charge any extras.
Yeah, Asda, most people think, you know, Asda is a small pharmacy. You know, it's not. They do have a kind of an international centre, and they do provide a lot of the.
We got a lot of address.
A lot of high drugs.
Because the chap's wife went through IVF, so he was the owner of it. Maintained he would never charge a premium. And Stork Healthcare and HealthNet. But again, I was looking into this, and actually my clinic are charging me £100 less for the same product through Stork, through HealthNet, that someone else is paying £100 more. So,
but then again, with us, like if we're far away, we have ours in London. If we need to pick something up, then it's easy to get it from Asda or Stork rather than going all the way back to London. So what was it like over in Alicante?
So they gave us a prescription and just said go to your whoever. So we were like Asda, great, which was really handy. So
in Alicante, did you have to get the drugs over here and take them with you, or
no? Because we had a donor egg, all those kind of stim stuff was kind of done locally for them, and he's kind of in the total cost of the treatment. The stuff you have to do for the womb and that we were doing over here. So the trouble we had was the prescription we were given looked really nice but meant nothing to the pharmacist in England, so we had to get them in touch with the clinic for them to kind of go,
you don't really think about that, I suppose, do you? Just lost in translation.
It was like a really weird little certificate and it just had the drugs on, and we gave that to Asda and they went, what's this? So they're used to the little green slips, aren't they?
Yeah. So right, that is all we got time for this week. We have gone over by 7 minutes, but we really wanted to pick up on a lot of stuff, and we really wanted to get in Mike and Jen's question and answer session. We'll think of a better name.
Yeah. Running late, but sounding great.
We are building a new studio as well, so we're going to have lots of like niceness instead of a white background, lighting. So we are going up in the world, and it's because you guys are watching and loving our show. So do share it. Do let other people know it's happening. We go out 6:30 every other Wednesday, either with a live show. We do pre-record some, we do put them out, but it will always go out at 6:30 live, so you can watch it in real time.
Do subscribe, do like. That does a lot for us. So please do that.
We need over 1,000 subscribers so we can change our URL channel to give a customized URL. So do start liking our channel. Thank you so much from everyone here, from me, Mike, and Jen.
See ya.
We look forward to seeing you. I'm not sliding down the seat. This is me just trying to turn it off. As I said, because we are setting up our channel, our studio for the next show. But from us two here, have a great day, everyone.
Bye.
Us two, us three.